Good afternoon or good morning to you. We will give folks an opportunity to trickle into our room here, and I will introduce our speakers shortly. Hey, welcome everyone to the QEM Heroes webinar series. My name is Christine Wood, and I serve as the Assistant Program Director for the Heroes Fellows Program at QEM. For more than 30 years, QEM has been a national catalyst for STEM education transformation and research capacity building. Currently, the QEM network serves nearly 900 colleges and universities and reaches more than 8,000 individuals nationwide. This webinar is part of the HEROES initiative. The HEROES program brings together researchers with experience in the federal government to lend their expertise and support to the STEM research and education communities. Our fellows are here to provide tools and tips for navigating the funding landscape, developing STEM programs and partnerships, and improving talent retention in in-demand fields. We hope this series promotes engagement with our HEROES fellows and provides valuable resources to our participants. During the webinar, we invite you to use the Q&A tool to ask questions of our panelists. The webinar recordings and slides will be available in the QEM Resource Hub. By attending this webinar, you will be added to the QEM network and granted access to the Resource Hub. And I am so happy to introduce our presenters today. Frances Carter Johnson is an innovative problem solver with professional experience spanning commercial, Corning Inc., Accenture, academic, MIT, American, UMBC, government, NASA, NIH, and NSF, and nonprofit, Casey Foundation, sectors, as well as multidisciplinary content, data management, and analytic expertise. Her technical areas of expertise include data science, AI and data, evaluation, public policy, physics, and engineering. And James Smith III is a retiree from the U.S. Department of Defense. In his 20-year career at DoD, he served as a site engineer, software engineer, systems engineer, project director, and an engineering and physical science researcher at the North Carolina State University Laboratory for Analytic Sciences. In these roles, he developed and refined expertise in AI and machine learning program, software engineering, and 3D graphics. He also advanced mission-critical research and partnered with students and faculty from minority-serving institutions in support of research goals. I am so happy to turn the floor over to our presenters today.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us, and welcome to our webinar on ethical and evidence-based use of AI research tools and processes. This is a webinar series that James and I have put together that really opens the floor for conversation and intellectual discourse about the use of AI in research or in teaching and learning. So, James and I dabble in and use and are learning about AI just as many of you all are. We do have some expertise. We do not consider ourselves the foremost experts, but this is an opportunity for us to discuss whether we think AI use is ethical, what are some of the evidence-based reasons to use it. We are not pushing AI down anyone's throat. We understand that there are critical questions, and this is a critical time for the use of AI, and there are different perspectives. So please take this time as an opportunity to learn and also share. We almost call this, say, a lightning series about both commercially available and more open source tools that might be out there. And there are opportunities for more deep trainings. If people are interested in a deeper training, then you'll have an opportunity to provide information about that. That's just an overview of, and we'll try to take one question per slide. So we'll pause at the end of each slide to see if there are any questions in the Q&A. And we'll try to answer maybe in about 30 seconds. And I'll have one more housekeeping point when we get to our poll questions. James, is there anything I left off that you want to include for our opening?
No, I think you covered everything.
Okay, thank you. And I think we're ready for our first poll question. Notice that on each question, we have an additional response option, other. Sometimes you might see please specify, but please put it in the chat. If you have additional response options to what's available in that particular poll, please put that additional response in the chat as a comment with the number of the question beside it, and I'll put an example here for you all to see. Thank you, Genevieve.
I am letting this poll run a little longer than usual because people are still answering.
Thank you for your responses. So lots of people have used ChatGPT. Some use NotebookLM, some use of Claude, some use of Elicit and Research Rabbit, but very little. And then everyone is talking about Gemini and Copilot and Perplexity in the chat. So thank you all. Thank you all for participating and for your engagement. So, as the title of the talk discusses, there's a lot of questions around whether using AI in research is ethical. And so, what we present here are some of the ethical principles or what this slide presents are some of the ethical principles of research. Research is expected to be honest and transparent, objective, careful, accountable, and fair. And there are risks when using AI to maintaining research ethics. And some of those risks are when we don't disclose if AI is being used, then that takes away from honesty and transparency. We all know about hallucinations and fabricated data, fabricated papers and citations, and that relates to carefulness and the rigor of our research. So we want to, as there are thoughts about you shouldn't use AI because it's completely unethical, but we'll talk a little bit later about some of the ways to avoid some of the ethical issues to using AI. I think the next poll question should be popping up. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Great feedback, great perspective. So 85% of the attendees believe that using AI research tools can be ethical. To improve research input and output can be ethical. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Great. So there's a lot of evidence for why, but the evidence behind using AI research tools. And if you can't tell, this is a AI generated slide using one of the commercially available tools that I'll talk about later on. But it talks about why is the research industry thinking we should use AI in research? It's a catalyst to help to accelerate our research inputs and outputs, and it can be used as a research assistant, right? That is probably the approach and the process that we are might be recommending if we were recommending anything in this webinar. But there are thoughts that AI driven research have a citation premium, that they experience more citation hits and higher impact, that they're the top 5% of citations. A lot of our wet lab research can be done in autonomous labs now, or are done in an autonomous environment. So it may improve access to research and the ability to do some research projects that sometimes maybe less resource institutions may not have had an opportunity to conduct such experiments. But we also have to realize that there are potential biases and hurdles. The AI use training gap. Many are all institutions providing AI training for faculty and students. And so are all types of institutions and all types of students and researchers really having the access and the exposure and the participation. And so that was a lot of what we wanted to hear from the QEM network today. We want to know how are you using AI? What is your institution um, providing in terms of resources on how to use AI, or whether it shouldn't be used at your institution, or are you having to find resources on your own? So we can talk more about that as we go along. Um, and I haven't been pausing for questions either, but maybe there are no questions in the chat. Go ahead, Tarina.
Okay, I'm looking at this AI generated slide,
Mhm.
and I see on the top right corner demographic disparities in AI benefits. Women and minority researchers are currently less likely to benefit from the rise of AI. Is that part of your discussion today? Because I have a concern with that statement.
This, not necessarily. It can
Okay.
be if there are questions that come up about so the approaches, right? How to use AI. You can use AI to generate sources for you. When you use AI to generate sources, you need to verify whether those sources are actually accurate or not. And this example used NotebookLM and generated some sources that I verified to see if they were accurate or not. So what we can do is I can provide the source that talks about there potentially being demographic disparities in AI benefits. And in thinking about the disparities to benefits, we also have to think of that's related to the AI use training and the possible gaps in utilization. And so if there are gaps in utilization of AI, then as a result there be gaps in benefits for different groups as well.
Mm.
So they're
I'd love to
related.
read that source.
Okay, I'll make sure I provide it.
And I do
Thank you.
think we have another poll on this slide, right?
Yes, yes, go ahead. And again, if you have additional response options, please feel free to number them and put them in the chat. If it's for question one, then put a one beside it and put those response options, or put a two and put those response options.
So while folks are responding to that, I just wanted to point out in the chat that one of the participants said that they felt like question two, their answer or their response was, it depends, question two. So I just wanted to point that out.
And I think that was the yes, no question about whether using research tools was ethical or not.
Yes. Mhm.
Great point, Gregory Davis, that you came up with your own research ideas, but what did you use it to do? Were you answering a research question? Were you synthesizing literature? What was the purpose? It may be in a question you had, but like, what did you use? What product did you get from the AI. So many of you have used AI to summarize articles and do literature reviews. That's the majority. 40% have yet to intentionally use AI research tools in your own research. That is good information to know. And how did you hear about it? Most people have received training. So 31% of you are getting training at your institution, fellow researchers at your institution. Very few have done journal articles. Researchers at a conference. Okay, great. Great, great, great. Creating a title. Thank you, Genevieve. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But no one has taken a course, I guess, that your institution or organization has offered on AI. Is that what I'm hearing? No courses through Coursera or any of the online institutions on AI? Bill, I would love to hear more about that in the chat, but I'll move on to the next slide now. So as we talked about, we're going to talk about commercially available research tools. I am, and also James is going to talk about how to produce your own research tool or use research as to produce a proof of concept. Go ahead, James.
Oh no, you just mentioned exactly what I was going to say as far as going from research to proof of concept in order to display the results, especially when you're dealing with the intelligence community.
Mhm, mhm. So three very popular tools that are commercially available are NotebookLM, Research Rabbit, and Elicit. NotebookLM is a part of the Google Workspace, and so it can be integrated with the Google Workspace. They're commercially available, and I found that many graduate students are using these because of they can be helpful and they can be your research assistant, right? You can choose your AI research co-pilot or use this in your workflow. And Mendeley and many of these other citation sourcing tools that we have now have an AI aspect to them. So AI is involved in most of the software and many of the softwares, but these are particular, specific softwares that I wanted to highlight. They have different primary goals. Research Rabbit really helps with literature discovery. It's an academic database of millions of articles. NotebookLM can do synthesis and deep learning of particular articles for you or help look up sources. And now NotebookLM shows you where these sources are coming from. So it helps you with verifying whether these sources are true. And then Elicit helps find data within journal articles, and it will create automated tables and data tables for you as well that you can download. So Research Rabbit and NotebookLM look very similar. So I only provided an example of NotebookLM and Elicit. So NotebookLM, you can have an account and you can go in and you can add data sources or you can type in a question in NotebookLM that you want it to answer. My recommendation in dealing with graduate students and other students that I've talked to is not to try to get these tools to write your entire research paper or your entire proposal. You are still the expert, or your student needs to still be the expert. You need to still know your literature, have some background around your literature, and really be using this as a research tool for synthesis. But when I've seen students try to use this to write an introduction or write a chapter two without the specific sources, I can tell immediately that the scholarly level of writing and knowledge is not where it needs to be. Raise your hands or put a comment in the chat if you can agree. If you've seen it with your students, if for homework assignments or papers or any work, tell us in the chat if you can see immediately when a student has not been the expert and used one of these processes, if you can tell. But that's a good approach. I think an appropriate approach, an ethical approach, is to use this as a research assistant. But NotebookLM can produce the graphics that you saw. They can produce a mind map. They can produce slides for you, a slide deck for you based on sources that you provide. Elicit can will not do slides for you, but as I talked about earlier, this is a question that I put into Elicit. I live in Prince George's County, Maryland. My children, two of them are in a Spanish immersion school in Prince George's County. due to budgetary concerns, is thinking about closing the high school version of the immersion program and letting students take their advanced Spanish courses um, via dual enrollment with the University of Maryland and so many other institutions. Parents are in an uproar. So the researcher in me said, well, let's go find out the data. Like, what's the research behind dual enrollment? To me sounds like a great idea because your children could potentially, they graduate with college credit. So there are lots of benefits. And so I'm trying to help parents maybe or look at the benefits. So I put in a very specific question into elicit. What are the numbers of 9th to 12th grade students receiving state seal of biliteracy as a result of these two different types of immersion programs? What did it come back? It gave me some articles that are true articles. I am familiar with some of these authors myself from looking at this literature. But no researcher has done analysis or Elicit didn't find on the number of students receiving this state seal of biliteracy. So I gave it a question, a very specific question. I was asking for a specific measure, and it was able to give me articles, but it could not give me data on those two measures because, according to Elicit, it those studies have not been done. And I, again, did the same thing. I verified whether these articles that it used for this question were accurate. So these are some commercially available research tools that we wanted to share uh, and and talk about an ethical approach on how to use these research tools. We do not have another poll question here, right? We're moving on.
Let me, before you move on, Dr. Carter Johnson, you have a couple of, and I want to encourage folks to put their questions in the Q&A because they're getting lost in the chat. But one of the questions from earlier was, and it was on the slide, but I don't want you to have to go back to the slide. It was some or most of the AI listed here that I haven't used yet, are they free or for a subscription?
There's both a free version and a subscription version, similar to ChatGPT. So
Okay.
this was all done with the free version. I don't pay for any of these.
And with the
And
free version, I would
oh, go ahead.
say if you're going to use some of these tools, the free versions come with a certain amount of cycles that you can spin up and go through. I pretty much use nothing but the free because you get enough, and then you can just they normally give you like a 5 hour delay before you can come back and do something else. So the free version it does a lot. You just don't use the latest model.
Okay. And then the next question is, do you think these AI tools are better than ChatGPT?
I cannot speak to I'm not a chat GPT user, so the boycott is not hard for me.
I
But
would say I
but other
use it.
people say chat GPT is better, right? A lot of people think chat GPT is better than say Gemini. Go ahead, James.
I was that's a matter of perspective. Uh, Being more so on the software end, writing code, I would tend to lean towards Claude over ChatGPT. ChatGPT is good for if you're trying to produce like JSON documents or if you're trying to edit your paragraph to sound more professional after you have wrote something, you put it in. But yeah, it's just a matter of perspective and what you're trying to do and what type of model and the data it was trained on. It's a trial and error. You got to try one. I would say use multiple and see which one gives you the best output.
Yeah, I want to co-sign on that. When I talk about AI, we encourage, we being QEM, encourage you to try out different platforms in the free version, as both Francis and James have mentioned. And as James has said, depending on what you're doing, so like there, I'm not a carpenter, but there are 50 million different types of
Yeah.
screwdrivers. Okay, and you have to pick the one that's right for the job that you're trying to do at time T. So one thing that I have found is I guess trust Chat GPT for when I'm looking for articles and things like that. So I tend to use Perplexity over that. But I will say Chat GPT has the best of the ones that I have used, has the best image manipulation over Perplexity or anything else because Perplexity is not geared for that, whereas ChatGPT seems to be more geared for image manipulation than others. So you have to know what you're trying to do and pick the right tool, which means trying out a lot of different screwdrivers.
Yep. So going from what Francis was saying about research to dealing with the proof of concept, the whole idea here is okay, you're doing your research, and eventually you want to showcase that to the world. Or if you're trying to do research with the intelligence community, they tend to like to put their hands on exactly what you're talking about. So we're going to go from research to proof of concept. And so, of course, with all the popularity of all the different chatbots, as you've been putting into the chat lately, Claude, ChatGPT are pretty much the top of the line right now. You still have Meta and Perplexity, but those are the two go-to ChatGPT chat boxes that we use. Especially if you're watching the news, what's going on today, as you see with the Department of Defense slash War. They trying to sign all these different contracts with these organizations in order to use their chat box. And you can see it's a battle going on. And Claude backed out, ChatGPT losing customers because they chose to sign with them. Now they starting to backtrack. So the popularity is there. It's only just going to grow as time goes on. But these are some of the different ones that I've used in the past while working at the Laboratory for Analytic Science over here at NC State. Next slide. So we know there are known issues with using these chatbots, from hallucination, meaning they're giving you data that they claim is real, but you know it's wrong, to the inability to handle complex queries. I dealt with that firsthand where using Claude, you put in, you want to develop like an AI machine learning algorithm, and it spits it out originally, but as you keep adding to it, the model itself that it's using, it may not be able to go beyond a certain point. So you got to have that human element involved when you're dealing with these queries. On top of that, you have the bias and the discrimination. That's quite obvious depending on the situation you're using. You go from putting out videos and it only representing one group to asking for certain type of research papers and they only spitting out certain facts on a certain groups. This stuff is it going to cost a lot of money. Maintenance is high because you got to constantly train these models. These models are not learning on their own. You need lots of data, and once you train it, you got to feed it new data, in order to keep it going. And then there's the energy cost. That's where you're building up all your data warehouses, Amazon Web Services. Everybody's standing up in order to process all these different AI. That's going to cost money, time, energy, and they just going to pass that buck to the user. So when you see the price is originally $20, it's going up to now $35. That's what you're paying for the consumption of in order to use these AI models. Let's see. To what degree should researchers document that they use AI? That's a good question. I don't know. I think you should, if you're using it as a starting point, I would definitely say it shouldn't be your sole source. It should just be a tool you use to get started, not necessarily a tool to use to finalize your publication. It's just treat it as another tool, not necessarily as, oh, ChatGPT spit it out, so let me just use this. Next slide.
Did you want to provide an answer, Christine? Or you answered in the, okay, you answered in the Q&A.
Yep, we answered live in the Q&A.
Great. Oops.
Oh, go back. All right, so
now the company created an art.
Oh, here's a video. I just want you, this is from 2016, just to give you a little overview. This is Microsoft. This is them training their original chatbot strictly on Twitter data. No filter, no boundaries, no review. You can play.
Artificial intelligence chat bot. It was a computer that they named Tay, who was designed to respond to questions and conversations on Twitter with the personality of a teenage girl. So you can see there she started
That's
out
a bad idea right there.
It doesn't sound great, does it? Now, she started out tweeting about how humans are super, and she's really into the idea of National Puppy Day. Now, the idea behind Tay was that her output was modeled on what was happening on Twitter, the responses that she gets from humans. And within a few hours, you can see she took on a rather offensive, racist tone, a lot of messages about genocide and the Holocaust. Now, other users on Twitter do appear to have been baiting her a little bit with provocative questions that was designed to make this robot react in a sort of a slightly offensive way anyway. Needless to say, Microsoft has now taken Tay offline after less than 24 hours. They said that they would be making some adjustments to her and to how she engages with real humans.
I think that's a good idea, Microsoft.
Okay, so with that, now you have Microsoft Copilot. So they just took that off, retrained it, and now you have Copilot. I guess they went back and not just trained everything on Twitter data. Now, I would definitely say Twitter has a lot of data. When I was working, doing my research at the Laboratory for Analytic Science, we used Twitter for a lot of different things because just the amount of data that was there. And if you are trying to train a chatbot, I mean, that's a good source. But I would definitely say you definitely want to look everything over, get your sources from multiple locations. Make sure you put in filters because you can't trust people. And as you can see, people are going to push the limit on anything that you do when you start putting out these different models just to see what's going to happen. And there's other examples out there from the drive-through at Taco Bell where a user went in and ordered 10, well, I think it was 18,000 cups of water, and their AI bot couldn't handle it. And then it started trying to add different drinks to a meal where they just wanted a particular burrito and they just say, hey, do you want to drink? Do you want to drink with this? Kept asking the same question. Or you can go to where I believe it was a major car company. They had their own chat box that deal with the sales of their programs. And come to find out, a user was able to go in and manipulate it to where the chatbot agreed to sell them a car for like $1. So you still got to have that human element in there in order to review these chatbots before you start putting it out for user consumption. Next slide. So here's an example that I did was I took a Claude, ChatGPT, and basically I just asked, create me a Tetris game using strictly JavaScript and HTML. And you can see the result on the left, which is the Claude, the right was ChatGPT. The Claude version gave me a full version game, a working game. You get the score, the level, the lines, the next piece that's coming up. The rules is on the board. You can pause it. A complete working game was created with Claude. ChatGPT, they gave you the Tetris game with some instructions on how to move the blocks. I believe ChatGPT at the end said, hey, would you like to create a user interface? Would you like for me to track the score? To me, this is the difference. I think somebody asked the question, which one you think is better earlier. I will always go with Claude, especially if you're working with code, because if I say a game, I'm saying a complete game. The user interface, the score, all that should be included. I don't want a working prototype, which to me is what the ChatGPT version gave you. Claude gave me a full working game. So it goes back to, yes, you have all these different chat boxes, but it's just a matter of perspective, which one you want to use, what you're trying to accomplish, and test it out. I would use a variety of them. I wouldn't just focus on one. Put your description, the same description in every last one, and see exactly what you get. And that's how you're going to tell which one to go with based on what you're trying to do at that point. Next slide. So bottom line, just always use this as a starting point. It's not, I would never use this as an end all be all, like, oh, well, ChatGPT gave it to me. You want to verify if it's giving you sources or citation, definitely verify all of that. Review all source code. I can say I've been burnt on that one. As far as I put it into, I think in this case, the agency had its own internal chat bot that we use, and it spat out some code without verifying that the code worked. I dropped it into, I'm not gonna say it was the enterprise network, but it was just a working prototype, and it pretty much brought the system down. So I would definitely say verify all code that spit out. Make sure it's doing exactly what it said it's going to do. Uh, Confirm if it's getting information from it. Please verify the source. Let me see. Oh, I got a question. Did the version of Tetris include the classic music? No, no music was added. I think in order to get the music, you actually have to upload the music source. So if you have a music file or some different tones you want in the game, I believe you can upload it and then it'll add that to the game. Next slide. So I added this slide because this is going to take me into you want to do research, you want to get funding from the intelligence community, uh, you're going to need data sources, especially if you're dealing with AI. If you're dealing with, because when you're dealing with the intelligence, they're not necessarily going to give you the data. So you got to go out and find the data, but you got to make sure the data is relevant to what you're trying to accomplish with whatever agency you're working with. Now, these are typical from Kaggle, ImageNet, Hugging Faces, YouTube, Coco. Those are all open source. YouTube, you got to get permission from the content creator unless they provide it as a free download. But you can definitely download images from Kaggle, ImageNet, Coco. Open source, typical. But like I say, I'm coming from the intelligence, and we are not allowed to use any of that data. So, coming from the intelligence perspective, you got to go and get it. And going to get it means you got to go outside of the US, get data, and train in order to train your model and make sure it's going towards what we're looking for. So I'm recommending down the road, if you want to do this type of research, and eventually in the next presentation, I'll provide some opportunity for you to get research funding through the intelligence community. But for right now, you want to look at VMware or some type of virtual environment set up, put a VPN on it. Uh, I would definitely say China has a lot of resources. They have a lot of data that's publicly available. Definitely go there. That's what we did to get a lot of our information, but they're not the only people. Um, but yeah, you're gonna have to go outside of the U.S. using straight images, U.S. people, personnel, license plates, whatever. It's not gonna fly, and they're gonna ask, where did you get your source from? And you cannot get it from any of those sources. YouTube, you may be able to do if you get permission from the content creator itself. So, oh, hold on. Any advice on creating folders and naming convention when using an AI tool such as ChatGPT? Yeah, I don't. As far as creating folders and naming convention, I think that's a matter of perspective. I think you definitely need to organize your data in a certain way to where you can follow, but to me, that's just a matter of preference. I use the snake format for everything. Everything is lowercase, using the underscore to separate each word. And that's how I name all my folders. And so if you're dealing with lots of different data, you know, you just name the folders appropriately and you go from there. I don't That's just a matter of preference as far as naming convention. Next slide. Oh, we got another poll. And I believe this one is the poll question. Yep. Do you anticipate using AI research tools more in your research? Yes, no, maybe. I don't want to say anything to that, but I would probably say yes. Everybody probably should be saying yes because AI is not going anywhere. It's only going to get better. So, but I'd like to hear y'all perspective on that one. And let's see, which one of the following AI research tool would you like to additional information on? Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of tools out there. There's maybe some out there we haven't listed. It's definitely if you part of the open source crowd, which I am. I prefer to use everything open source. I don't like to pay for anything, so mine would probably be others. But I'm curious to see what everybody else gonna select as far as their options.
I'll give folks another moment to respond to the poll. Thank you.
One thing we kind of left out of the opening that we can say here is this was more of an overview of the AI research tools, and we overview beginning, beginner AI exposure to AI and research. But as James mentioned, we have some follow-up webinars planned that are definitely more technical. So if you want more technical, know that it's coming. If you want just more in-depth to commercial research tools in the future, that can come as well. Excuse me.
Oh, okay, so let's give us some ideas for the next one. All right. So I see. Oh, we got a few no's, one no, and some maybe. Hey, I'm gonna encourage you. AI is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. The goal is can we make it better, get it to do what we need to do, and so you may just want to consider as far as the different types of tool. Oh yeah, Claude and NotebookLM. And NotebookLM, that's a unique one because I'll talk about that as far as what we were looking at the laboratory for analytic science. That's like a multimodal where you put in all your information and it spits out some information about what you're putting in and what you just put in. So the intelligence is big on right now on the multimodal where you put in images, videos, audios, text, PDFs, and it wants you to summarize all that information and spit out something like. So Notebook LM is definitely something to think about, especially when you go start going down working with the intelligence community. Like, oh, I would just say, can I create something like this that's beneficial for that industry? All right,
So
cool.
in the
Oh, go
chat,
ahead.
you had one person who said no, said the reason they said no is because basically how the question was formatted, they already use it a lot. So they didn't want to say yes or no. They said
Oh, okay, I
yes
got you.
or maybe. So
Yeah, it's everywhere. I mean, a lot of times you don't even know you're using it. I can tell you, if you're on your phone, if you're on your cell phone, it's already built in, whether you want it or not. So
well,
you using it.
another example of that is if you've been in Walmart in the last 2 weeks and you bought any kind of fruit that had to be weighed, they're now using AI. Well, before you'd have to go and find the type of
Yep,
fruit and then put it down on the scale, and
yep,
then it would tell you what it costs. Now, all you have to do is put the piece of fruit on the scale, it determines what it is and tells you how much it weighs. And that's because of AI. So AI is everywhere, whether you like it or
yep,
not.
yep.
There's a question in the chat in the Q&A that I said I would answer, and James weigh in as well. Yulia, thank you for your question. Would we recommend a Coursera or other course on AI tools in research? If you have the time, so I'll caveat this. If you have the time and energy, and it seems, if the interest is there, definitely. But I don't think it could hurt you. LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, there are tons of courses out there on AI tools for research, but just the understanding of what AI is, to really understand the algorithms and machine learning and LLMs. I have a colleague, I think, who's still at NSF, who is doing a course on a deep dive course on AI, and it is really giving the foundational knowledge that that colleague would want to prepare to use it in their career as a scientist, or if wherever they're going to work. So there are people that are doing courses that is providing them with the additional information they need. And if you have the time, I say hats off. I have signed up for courses, and my life is not such that right now that I'll really ever, I, I don't have the extra time to really dedicate and get from it. But I think if people have the time and are interested and can carve it out, yes, that's my perspective.
I do a lot of YouTube videos. Um, it's so much information out there. It depends on what you're trying to do. Are you trying to be more of the implementer, like build your own AI models, or are you just trying to get an understanding of AI, ML, and how to go about using it? I'm more on the developer end, so I'll go and read the documentation for TensorFlow because that's a AI package, and I'm trying to create. I know what I want to create. I just need to understand how to use this package to do what I want it to do. But otherwise, I'm on YouTube, pulling up whatever video resource. IBM has a good one where it goes through all the different type of neural networks, AI, ML, what you can do, what you can't do. So there's plenty of information out there.
We'll go to the next slide to make sure we get to everything and leave some time for questions. Go ahead, James.
Oh, okay. We have for our next three webinars, we're gonna have another one at the end of this month. That one we're gonna look at AI ML on the edge. And the whole goal of that webinar is to look at how AI ML is being used on the edge in the intelligence community. Basically, rather than sending it back to, I'm gonna just say it, AWS, Microsoft, Google, to put it on their infrastructure to process using all the GPU. Can you do that on it? How much of that can you do upfront before sending it back for further processing? So that would be the AI ML on the edge. In April, we're looking at doing the innovative data analytic infrastructure models for teaching, learning, and research. And that's basically looking at, okay, what tools are available out there to help you do your research? AI ML tools available out there to help you. I would definitely say AWS has a free resource portal in order to use their servers. So we're going to look and get into a little bit more detail in those type of tools, and along with some other ones. And then in May, we're looking at synthetic data generation for the intelligence. That takes us back to, okay, you can't use US data. How do you generate this data? And so we're going to take a look at synthetic data generation in order to train your AI ML models in May. So that's what's coming up for us. Next slide. And here's our contact information if you would like to talk to us more. Of course, you can go to the Heroes webpage, and of course, we ask that you do the feedback and check out the events that QM has going on. So, with that, I think we can open it up to any other questions.
Please feel free to raise your hand as well if you'd like to come off mute and ask a question live. Otherwise, use the Q&A box. And we have
Oh, that's a good one. Are reliable. I mean, I would say it's only reliable on the data it's trained on. So if that's where you gotta trust the data and you gotta trust it. And but it also comes to, are you getting what you expect? You have to know exactly what you're supposed to get from these tools and not just rely, oh well, ChatGPT or Claude gave it to me and that's it. So I would say is it reliable only to a certain extent. You still need to verify everything you get from those tools to make sure you're getting factual information or you're getting the correct information.
I'm still unmuted. So I wonder if this question was yes, for evaluating student paper.
Oh,
And I think they are, right? I think uh even the versions before AI were useful for professors to be able to tell if students were plagiarizing or not. So I and even there's right? When you copy and paste from ChatGPT or from some of these tools, it puts additional detection behind the language if you copy and paste and put it directly into a paper. So that is what those detection tools, those are some of the aspects of detection that the detection tools are utilizing. So I think that they're helpful, and I think students are, as they get more and more advanced, students are to some degree aware of them. But that could be another discussion that we could have about AI tools in teaching and learning and grading. That's that could be another discussion we have. Thank you for asking that question.
okay. Oh, that's the next one is probably for you also. What are some of the tools to verify student work? It's not overwhelmingly using AI.
Because I have not taught. I do not know the exact name of those tools. I'm just gonna be honest. So feel free, guys, to chime in the chat if those of you who are professors who know what your universities are using, what are some of those tools? What tools have your universities implemented?
And we have one more question. GPT zero.
So she puts in. And that is the process for training LLMs is a little bit outside of today's topic. Is that something you think you'll cover in the edge processing? Um,
I would say we're going to look at it, but depends on what you're trying to train. I just give you a quick what we used to do. When we did all our training, it was on AWS because we needed GPUs. So depending on the amount of data you have and what exactly trying to do, you're going to need some type of graphic processing unit. If it's just text-based, but that's where the synthetic data comes in, the edge processing, because if you don't want to send everything back, how do you train the model on the front end or try to reduce as much as possible in order to train a lot of these LLMs? So, but yeah, bottom line, if you're doing object detection or you just trying to build your own type of chatbot, uh, you're going to need a GPU just because of the amount of data that's going to go into in order to get it to do what you want it to do. So I would say AWS. If you're not, if you haven't used AWS, that's probably the way to go. Let's see. We haven't really supported a lot of AI tools for checking work, given the high false positive rates. Yeah, I don't know. Wasn't professor.
and maybe that is so I've talked to professors at universities, right? And they do have the universities have implemented detection mechanisms. So that might be some of what we some of the differences and variation from large institutions to smaller institutions. Maybe the detection methods and processes are not institution based. Maybe they're based on a professor. I'm thinking homework assignments, right? And this one professor I was talking to was an actual a chemistry professor. And, and so if people are using AI to do their chemistry homework, you can catch them on the test. It's the same way when I was in grad school at Georgia Tech. If you use the word, not grad school, undergrad, if you use the assistants to do your homework, they were always going to get you on the final exam. So you can use it to do your homework, but you don't have AI present with you when it comes to completing an in-class test. So there are some automatic mechanisms, I think, built into um, because we use because so many assessment mechanisms are used in education, then you can check. As a professor, you don't want that to be happening. You don't want students to be getting hundreds on their homework and failing the exam. So I can understand why you all would want to know that beforehand. Um, but I would love to have that conversation with you all to think about AI in, we talked about it here more for research, but how are you all using it in teaching and learning and grading, assessing? So thank you all for that feedback. Do we have a lot more time? Seems like we don't have.
About 4 minutes.
Okay. Going back to the old blue books. Thank you, Yulia. Humanizer tools. Thank you, Brad. Thank you. Oh gosh. Thank you, Gregory. Giving us insight.
Yeah, I would say any tool that you develop, anything that you do, there's going to be somebody who finds a way to cheat it. And then you have to overcome that. And they find a way to cheat that. So it's a never ending cycle.
Unfortunately. We didn't have another slide. This was our last one,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
We still have about 4 minutes if folks would like to ask any additional questions, make a comment, or raise their hand to be spotlighted live. Someone's asking about if there's any video generating AI.
Oh yeah, that's out there. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's there.
yeah, that's out there, and I will even go to the point. We were looking at generating videos just to help create synthetic data, depending on the mission at that time. So I was going to cover that in a later webinar as far as AI generating videos to use as your synthetic data to train your large language model. When I can also add, I guess from an anonymous user, he asked the process in training a LLM. I could squeeze that into one of those to where we'll go through the process. Okay, here's step by step what would you walk through to do it to train an LLM.
And we have a raised hand from Greg Davis. Greg, you're allowed to come off mute now and ask your question.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little more about the education. I got a big reaction from my comment about high school. I've seen some of it on homeworks as a substitute teacher. My son is a high school student, and he tells me his buddies are doing it. Like, oh yeah, he takes it into chemistry class. He even had one friend of his who he thinks is a terrible chemistry student, and the teacher said to him, "You should be more like X. He's a great student." My son was taken aback. So they're out there, they're getting used, and the ethics of AI in education, I think, is way more interesting and complicated than research, which isn't to say it's not interesting in research, but using it, teachers using it, students using it, since, as you said, James, it's not going away.
Right.
You have thoughts on how to use it in education and how to make sure students are still learning to think while they have access to these tools and can use them?
I would say I know with my sons, certain teachers don't allow them to pull out their phones. You got to put your phones away. Outside of that, if you're not going to just be walking down the desk, making sure they're not, I don't know how you're going to prevent that within the classroom as far as them having access. Like you say, to me, you want them to have access because you don't want that to be the go-to source, but you just want it to be another capability to help them learn, but you still want them to learn. But to like Francis say, it's a take a test. At the end of the year, you take a test, you sit down for your test, you don't have access to your phones, you're gonna know right then and there if you actually learn something in the class. But as far as preventing, I don't know without restricting. Unless you're gonna say no phones, no computers in the classroom, how you gonna block? I guess you can block out certain sites, but you don't want to do that either. To
Well, at
where
my
you,
son's,
right.
sorry, excuse me, James.
No, go ahead.
At one of my son's, what is it, elementary to middle school, K through 8, they have a blocker where
Right,
students can't use their cell phones at all in that building. And I don't know what's going on with high school students at this point, but a lot of schools in our district have whatever the Wi-Fi blocker where they can't use their phones at all. And a lot of, and this is beyond AI, this is technology use, electronic device use at all. And we do see your question too, Greg. James, if you could take Craig's question when we get a chance, though it went away. A lot of the technology and electronic device use, to me, the responsibility to some degree falls on us as parents and as educators. We can't, as a teacher or a parent, sit there on our phone all day and tell our kids, right, just do your homework and just let them.
right.
We have to be involved. And to some degree, if, how are students using their phones and during a test and the teacher's kind of not walking around and monitoring? I'm not criticizing, but I think that's what's on us. We are on our electronic devices as well as adults, and some of with our children or with in the education setting comes from still having engagement, still requiring them to critically think, checking their work, really making them engage in the process. So that's one response to Greg's question. And if James, if you could answer Craig's question.
He's
Oh, I was typing in, but I
typing
can
the answer now.
definitely.
Cool.
And I want
But
to,
oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, in the Ames AI course this summer, we did exactly what Tori has put in the chat. We talked about the use of harnessing these AI tools as part of the lesson and showing them how to use them ethically, how to use them appropriately, how to use them so that they're still learning. And so that's one of the things that we encouraged our folks that went through that process to do. And because, as we've said several times in this presentation, AI is not going away. We're going to have to figure out how to conquer that problem. And it's just like when you had the undermounted computers in class and you would have a test and the students would come in early and put a cheat sheet up on the screen. And if you didn't go around and look at the screen, they were cheating straight from the monitor. So you have to be engaged, find out how they're trying to cheat. And even before that, find ways to integrate these AI tools or chat bots or search engines or whatever into your lesson so that they're still learning the basic knowledge that you need to learn.
Thank you so much, everyone, for this highly engaging webinar and interactive webinar. We love to see the participation. We want to thank our panelists, Francis and James, for a really wonderful presentation. And it's Thursday, so our next webinar will be on Tuesday. So please visit the QEM events page to register for upcoming webinars. And we thank you very much for attending today.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
All right, take care.